Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing great out there this morning and having yourselves a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone's been having a great week out there so far as we're a little bit closer to that weekend. We do have a lot to talk about in this morning's video, as severe weather will be the big topic in this video. And I think this will be the big topic over the next several days of videos, as the Storm Prediction Center unfortunately has increased their confidence on severe weather happening Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. Now, that doesn't mean that we couldn't get severe weather for Monday or into Thursday, but I do think this could potentially be a bigger threat for Tuesday and Wednesday. So we will speak on the latest update information from the Storm Prediction Center right off the dot in this video. We'll talk about the ingredients coming together to create this multi-day setup of severe weather. And then we'll break down today's forecast like we always do in these morning videos. But we'll be able to get more and more detailed on this setup for early to midway next week as we just get day by day a little bit closer. So we're going to speak on everything that we know so far. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below so I can pray over it, and it's going to give a lot of others an opportunity to pray over your prayer request also. Stay tuned. I do have a devotion, a Bible devotion at the end of the video if you're interested in tuning in to that. So let's get rocking and rolling. So like I said, we're gonna go right into the latest from the Storm Prediction Center. This is their updated graphic they issued about an hour or two ago, and I mean, they have an enhanced risk at day 6. So if you're unfamiliar with the outlooks per the Storm Prediction Center, we have a marginal risk, a level 1 out of 5, a slight risk, which shows up in yellow, a level 2 out of 5, an enhanced risk, level 3 out of 5, level 4 out of 5 is a moderate risk, and a level 5 out of 5 is what we call a high risk. So when we're past day 4, the graphics look a little bit different, and I'll explain that as we go. So that's just a quick, a bit of an understanding of how the outlook works as far as the Storm Prediction Center. So this is for day 6. So this is Tuesday of next week. They already are saying there's a level 3 out of 5 risk of severe weather, and enhanced risk in this orange area. So if we zoom in a little bit closer, this includes the Arklatex area and other areas of eastern Texas. This includes the entire northern half of Louisiana, Alexandria, Shreveport, Monroe. Just some of these same areas that tend to always get hit. Really, they really get hit any time of the year, except maybe summer when the jet kind of gets too far north. But I mean, there's always a risk of severe weather in this area, and through winter, spring, fall. It's definitely an area that gets hit a lot, and this time is no different, unfortunately. But Jackson, Mississippi, up to Greenwood, Vicksburg, Clarksdale, all the way up to Pine Bluff, El Dorado, you guys have already an enhanced risk at day 6. That's pretty uncommon. You almost want to say it's rare. In fact, I think it is pretty rare. It doesn't happen a whole lot. That means they have some pretty high confidence that at least some sort of severe weather is going to happen. So this means there's a 30% chance of any severe weather. When you're day 4 onward, they don't fine tune what the main threat is. They just say, hey, 30% chance of any severe weather. That could be damaging winds, large hail, or tornadoes. Now, if we zoom this back out, in this yellow area surrounding this orange area and extends a lot further to the east, we have a slight risk, level 2 out of 5, risk of severe weather. And that means there is a 15% risk of any severe weather. This includes Nashville, this includes Chattanooga, almost to Atlanta, a good chunk of the state of Alabama, Montgomery, Birmingham, all the way to Meridian, Mississippi, down to Hattiesburg, almost down to Baton Rouge, all the way back to College Station, all the way back to over to Dallas, southeast Oklahoma, up to Little Rock, all the way up to here to the Boot Heel of Missouri. Even a small section of southwestern Kentucky. So this is a very large area that they're saying, hey, has a risk of severe weather. Now, this is for Tuesday of next week. Now, if we go to day 7, the risk shifts east as the storm system shifts east. So no enhanced risk here, just a slight risk, level 2 out of 5. And same thing, I click this, a 15% risk of any severe weather. This includes Atlanta, Macon, down to Savannah, Columbia, all the way down to southern areas of Georgia. This might extend to include more of northern Florida in time, and includes, includes the entire state of South Carolina, but it almost includes everybody in the Carolinas. Very small sections of the state are cut off, but Charlotte, Raleigh, Greenville, Fayetteville, Wilmington, Greensboro, Hickory, all the way up to Richmond, all the way up to Virginia Beach, Norfolk. Good chunk of Virginia, even sections of Maryland, already has a slight risk at day 7. This is for next Wednesday. So already honking the horn at severe weather. So what's driving this? I've been talking about this for about 5 days, saying, hey, I thought there would be a stronger storm system as we get several days into March. Now, I always thought it would be more so the 5th through the 10th, and I'll admit that right off the dot. This is actually going to come in about a day or two sooner than that and last into that time frame. Now, what you're looking at here is the 500 millibar wind speed. So this is going to be in knots, but 500 millibars, about 18,000 feet up in the air, give or take 1,000 feet. So this is the wind flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So we look at this to really tell us what our jet is, where our wind energy is. We can look at this and it tells us where our storm system is. So if you look at this, this is for OOZ Sunday. So this is Saturday evening, March the 1st. So we got this little impulse of energy. If you notice right here, the jet is kind of going way up here, then it kind of comes down here. This is a dip in the jet stream here. One thing I forgot to do is to pull up my little writing tool. And if this would minimize for me, I'm going to pull it up on the fly, guys. Sometimes I have to do that because I'm unprepared and don't have it pulled up already ahead of time. So sorry about that. Ignore. We'll update that one day. So if you look at this little impulse of energy right into here, this is kind of our first area of energy. This isn't going to do a whole lot, but this is probably going to produce some thunderstorms into Sunday, maybe even a little bit Saturday across the southern plains, which is right into here. But that's kind of our first impulse of energy right here, kind of up under this ridge, which is flexing all the way up here. And then we got this dip in the trough that's going to bring a brief but pretty stout cool down this weekend for areas of the east, especially the northeast and mid-Atlantic and the Great Lakes region. This will bring cold air down to here, but then you got warm air over here, ridge flexing. This is undercutting the ridge. This is our first storm system. Now, as we move in time here, we start to get into Sunday morning. This little first impulse of energy right here, bringing its own wind energy, kinematics. And anytime I say kinematics, a little nerding out term, think of that as wind energy. This will kind of swing in and will begin to weaken as it gets into the southern plains. And there's probably going to be some sort of capping mechanism that's going to prevent this right here from really producing a lot of thunderstorms, meaning there's some warm air loft, not allowing for thunderstorms to really break through and take advantage of any ingredients that is there for severe weather. So this system right here will begin to weaken. I don't think this will be the main system at all. It's what comes into the southwest right in here. So you see this dip coming in right here. It's kind of our mid-level low that's beginning to pivot in. It's already bringing some southwest flow into here. You see this purple right here. This is wind flow aloft. This is winds at a certain amount of speed in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So this is like 50 to 60 knots. This is going to continue to progress eastward, dig into the southwest. So this is around Monday afternoon. We already got a lot of southwest flow. So the flow's going like this. You see this wind barb right there? And it's pointing this way, right? That means winds are coming from that way. So they're coming down, shooting down, rounding this dip, and then coming out like that. So we got a flow coming from the southwest to the northeast. Southwest back this way, then northeast that way. So the flow coming from the southwest. This is starting to bring in some warm and really moist air from the south. So Monday, we could have some storms across areas of the southern high plains. I mean, maybe even the southern plains. Okay, but I don't think Monday is going to be the big weather day. As we get into Tuesday, we can get this going. We get into Tuesday, we get into like Tuesday morning here. I think as this upper low begins to move in, turns into just pretty much a trough that's digging down. It gets a bit of tilt to it. Then we have pieces of energy, call them short waves, that enhance that southerly flow. But in general, I want you to just focus on the fact that, hey, we got some sort of upper low right here. Okay, we got the flow rounding around this upper low going like this. Okay, one, it's bringing wind energy into the setup. So, and then two, it's bringing, if you look at the wind barbs here, it's bringing a lot of moist air from the south right into this area. And remember, this is just the flow at 18,000 feet. The flow in the lower levels could be coming more out the south. And I like to look at the lower levels when we get closer to the system, when we know where these short waves or weak low pressures are actually going to eject off this trough. So just remember, even though you got flow right here coming out of this direction, in the lower levels, it could be coming from like this direction, which is bringing warm air directly out of the Gulf. So just remember that as we go. But this is the kinematic feed needed, an ingredient for severe weather. Your wind energy. You got a lot of flow aloft. You got a mid-level jet, what we call it, going at about 80 to 90 knots. Your low-level jet's probably always going to be lower. But you figure out where your low-level jet is, and we'll figure that out in time. And it's associated with the actual surface low. And then you have kinematics that support severe weather. So this is Tuesday midday. It's getting into Tuesday afternoon. Okay, the system begins to progress eastward, and that mid-level jet actually begins to increase. So we have over 100-knot mid-level jet riding over the mid-south sections of the deep south. This is bringing a lot of wind energy, a lot of strong winds. We're probably going to have a high wind event across the southern Appalachian Mountains and the central Appalachian Mountains also. And as this continues to progress into the southeast, we'll have a lot of wind energy for probably a damaging wind, or just kind of a line of storms that sweeps through the southeast. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to get any kind of discrete storm mode, but all that wind energy begins to shift into the southeast for Wednesday evening. So that's the progression of kind of the field of loft of wind energy needed for severe weather. We got that flow coming out the south, and we just got the flow in general. Now, if we speak on thermodynamics, which is your surface moisture, your CAPE levels, storm fuel, your lapse rates, your temperatures at the surface needed for severe weather. How does that or underlap, in this case, underlap the kinematics, which is the flow aloft? Well, if we're looking at dew points, remember, when you start to get dew points into the 60s, that's when you can feel that it's humid outside. There's moist air out there. You get into the 70s, that's really true tropical air mass. But you don't need dew points in the 70s to get severe weather. You could certainly get severe weather in the 60s as far as dew points. So these are not temperatures. So already Monday afternoon, we already have some moisture building into Texas. Dew points, got a sector of dew points getting into the 60s in areas of Texas. But as we start to get into Monday evening, this begins to build north. And then by the time we're into Tuesday morning, which is the morning of what will likely be a big severe weather day, we got dew points spiking all the way to the 60s based off the Euro, all the way up to the Red River, border between Oklahoma and Texas. We got dew points building into the low to mid 60s and into areas of Louisiana and even southern Mississippi. And then as we start to get into prime time for severe weather, which is the afternoon of any given day, for the most part, most days of severe weather, this sector of moist air begins to shift over the entire state of Louisiana. We got dew points, getting close to 70. And I think they will be in the low 70s. I think models will respond to that and show that more in the coming days. In eastern Texas, we got dew points all the way up into the 60s, all the way up in the Little Rock points north. Entire state of Louisiana, Mississippi, dew points are rising. That surface moisture thermodynamics needed for severe weather. Now, you keep this going, and we're starting to get into Wednesday morning. Moisture begins to build across the Carolinas, even getting some dew points getting all the way into the 50s, which isn't super moist at all, but still a little bit more juice in the air all the way up into the Midwest, Ohio Valley. And then we start to get into about midday Wednesday, about 1 o'clock if you're in Eastern time. And dew points getting all the way into the 60s in Columbia up to Charlotte, even deeper moisture into Georgia. And then we get into Wednesday afternoon, and this certainly looks like your day 2 event, day 1 being the main event, Wednesday being an event where, hey, you're probably going to have a high-end kinematic atmosphere, but do you have enough surface moisture? Do you have enough CAPE in the atmosphere to produce a significant severe weather event for Wednesday across the Carolinas, Georgia, maybe North Florida, up to Virginia? And if the Euro is correct, you still got plenty of moisture. Dew points spiking well into the 60s in these areas. and I mean all the way into Wednesday night into the coastline. So there's some model runs before this where this was a lot faster, and that the moisture clears out in time to where Wednesday is really not a big severe weather day. But we have trended this a little bit slower, and looks like we are definitely going to get a severe weather day even for Wednesday. So last thing you look at here, and listen, this is going to tweak a lot. Global models don't do the best with CAPE levels. This is mixed layer CAPE. Just the measure of how much, I like to say, juice is in the atmosphere, really how much energy is in the atmosphere, fuel for these thunderstorms. So Monday afternoon, not a lot. We get into Tuesday morning. I mean, already you got CAPE levels. And this is just one run of the Euro, guys. Just remember that. You already got CAPE levels spiking over to 1,000 joules per kilogram, which is plenty enough energy if you have enough wind energy on top of this to work with, overlapping conditions. And, I mean, you already got plenty of fuel for thunderstorms Tuesday morning. And then we start to get into Tuesday midday. I mean, you got CAPE levels spiking over almost 1,500 joules per kilogram in eastern and southeastern Texas. And Louisiana, same thing, 1,500 joules per kilogram. That is like rocket fuel when you match all the other ingredients that will be in place for severe weather. And I mean, even this area of like over 2,000 joules per kilogram in eastern Texas for Tuesday afternoon, man, that's just not good. And then, I mean, look at the fuel down here in southern Louisiana. I mean, this is the middle of the night. I mean, this is going to tweak some. No point in getting super detailed on this. I mean, still 150 hours out. But man, that is a lot of fuel out ahead of what's probably going to be a developing line of storms. And we go on and switch it back to the southeast and connect the timing here. And we get into a Wednesday morning. You're probably going to have some sort of line of storms working through Alabama, maybe Georgia. And then look how the ingredients for severe weather. And I know you're thinking 600, 700 joules per kilogram ain't a lot in Georgia and South Carolina. But listen, this will probably uptrend as we get closer. And then look how this spikes to over 1,000 joules per kilogram in South Carolina, areas of Georgia, up into North Carolina as we get closer. And I know I don't have Virginia shown in this, but listen, we'll be able to get detailed on all that. I mean, this is going to change. If I click a sounding right here in the Western Midlands, I mean, look at the looping hodograph right here. You see how it's kind of going like this, and then it's looping. We'll talk more on this as we go, but surface moisture, you got dew points in the 60s. The air temperature certainly not very high, but you got a tornado hazard sign here. We got turning with height. You see how the winds and the low levels right here. You see how that wind barb is pointing kind of mainly to the south, and then as you get, I mean, just a couple thousand feet up, the winds dramatically shift and come more out the west. So we have directional shear in place, but we'll talk more on all this as we get closer. And then yeah, so and I thought about not even showing this, and we really need to wait until we get into short range, but this is kind of a depiction of what the Euro is showing as far as what these storms will look like. This is Sunday evening from that first impulse of energy, and could have some thunderstorm rumbling through Sunday night across areas in northern Texas, and these will eventually try to get into northern Louisiana for Monday morning. This is our first area of energy. I definitely think we could get a marginal, even a slight risk for Sunday evening into Monday morning. I wouldn't be surprised one bit. I think Monday will kind of have a break between both those two storm systems, and then the main one moves in. And then Tuesday morning, we already got thunderstorms and rain firing north and south of the Red River here. And then here it is. You see all just the greens, the yellows, the orange. I mean, that is thunderstorm activity, probably severe weather. And just, we don't know the actual true structure of these storms, but, the Euro already shows it well. It matches up well with all the other atmospheric factors in place for severe weather. And, this is where you have that enhanced and slight risk right here, showing all those thunderstorms. And I think it shows the placement pretty well. And then, we start to get into the southeast, and a line of storms could be working its way through overnight across Mississippi, Alabama, and then Georgia by the next morning. And then do we have, supercells that develop in Georgia and the Carolinas? So certainly a powerful storm system. We've been kind of talking about the possibility of this for several days now, and I definitely think it's likely going to happen. Now, is there a winter weather side to this? If we start off Monday evening, just kind of a different vantage point of this, and there's all the severe weather down here. This is Tuesday midday. I do think there's the possibility for heck, maybe even a blizzard on the cold side of this. You see this heavy snow developing in western Nebraska into South Dakota. We could get a snow event in Denver. This is Tuesday midday, and shows snow falling in Nebraska, even western Kansas. I mean, all the way up into Minnesota, South Dakota, and then it tries to really wrap up. And, this is Wednesday midday, March the 5th. Could get a high-impact winter storm up here in areas of Iowa, Wisconsin, and then the UP of Michigan. This is just something to watch. No point in getting super detailed on it right now, but this is in 48-hour periods as far as the Euro ensemble. And, there really isn't a significant signal here for a heavy snowfall. You got inch to 3 inch at most snowfall mean or average. So there is a signal right in here for what the Euro just showed. But overall, I mean, it's not a huge signal. It looks like it increases once it gets into the UP. So we'll watch for that. But that's an update on that. We'll continue to get more and more detailed as we go. But today's forecast, watches, warnings, and advisories do have winter storm warnings that do expire in northeast Minnesota for right now into tomorrow morning. So winter storm warnings, we got winter storm watches up for the eastern UP and even the far northern sections of lower Michigan for some heavy wet snow on the way. And then we have some winter weather advisories across the interior New England area for some snow falling out there right now. We do have some flood advisories, flood watches up for areas of Montana. But outside of that, the rest of the country is pretty quiet. We'll look at the risk of thunderstorms for today. We do have a risk of them, especially, I would say we could have some thunderstorms that move in overnight in areas of the Ohio Valley. I don't think it's anything to freak out about or worry about too much, but certainly a risk here. And then the risk of excessive rainfall, pretty low. In fact, it's so low that nothing shows up out here. So the southeast starting this morning, pretty quiet start to your morning, very mild for many areas. We're going to probably get some rain that makes its way through Virginia, North Carolina, through sections of South Carolina today. Eventually, this rain could make it all the way to the North Carolina coastline in the form of some showers, maybe even a thunderstorm. And then when you get into tomorrow morning, should be a cooler start to your morning. I think Friday in general will be just a more chillier day as this cold front moves in, but I do think that this is not going to last very long. But the Northeast, we got wet snow moving in. It's been heavy wet snow in certain areas. As we get into about midday today, this heavy snow will take over a good chunk of Maine. Vermont, New Hampshire, favorite higher elevations will get snow, Adirondacks, rain, snow mix, depending on your elevation. And this turns into, a pretty good thumping of wet snow up here in Maine. But then it moves on out, and then we're done. And we could get some wraparound convection that makes its way through Ohio this evening. So you might get a rumble of thunder. I wouldn't be surprised you get some small hail with some of these thunderstorms in Ohio, central to eastern Ohio today. And then this will hit the higher elevations of PA and West Virginia in the form of maybe some convective snow, meaning some heavier burst of snow. We'll see what happens with that. And then a chillier day setting up for tomorrow. And then another system is on its heels that will greet you guys for tomorrow. But snowfall between now and the next 48 hours, a few to several inches of snow, of wet snow, depending on where you live. So as a graphic of this area, I'm running out of gas this morning for sure. Don't have a whole lot left in the tank, but it's not even a long video either. But several inches of snow. Now this is accounting for the system that's going to move in tomorrow also. Should have showed more of that, but the Tokyo Plateau could get 6 to 10 inches of snow depending on your location. Syracuse could get about an inch. Watertown 3 to 4. Buffalo a little bit of snow, but not a huge event for you guys' standards here. And then just kind of drop it down to West Virginia. You guys in those higher elevations of West Virginia, the Highlands and Allegheny Mountains, certainly will get a few inches of wet snow. So South Central U.S., quiet weather. That'll change next week, just like we just talked about. But it's a quiet day of weather. There's nothing to speak on. Enjoy your day. And then the North Central U.S., we're going to get some snow showers, kind of lake enhanced off Superior that makes its way through the UP today. So add some accumulations, but a larger system will move in. This will bring some heavy snow to northeast areas of Minnesota, and then a good heavy snowfall event overnight. You'll just, if you really want to see just a heavy wet snow, this will probably be those large flakes. Temperatures will be much higher than normal when it snows up here. But this clipper that kind of moves in, this will bring a heavy thumping of snow overnight. Probably going to go to sleep to whatever you got on the ground. Then you'll wake up to probably more snow on the ground. So this will move in and drop some heavy snow throughout the UP into northern lower Michigan. And then it'll bring some snow into southern Ontario tomorrow. And then it moves in, a little bit of cold air behind it. And we're getting some lake effect snow for your last day of February. So snowfall between now and the next 48 hours. There's that several inches in the northeast section of Minnesota. 6 to 10 inches of snow is possible. And then we look at the UP of Michigan. It's between now and 1 a.m., about midnight Friday night. But Marquette gets 7 inches of wet snow. If you live up here, Stephen, Lisa, I know y'all do, 6 to 10 inches of snow depending on where you live. You get into the southern sections of the UP, not quite as much. And it's going to be just that heavy, thick snow, I think, up here. So, man, if you live in that, like I said, you live in that purple area, that's over 6 inches of snow that's forecast by the National Weather Service. So it's a pretty decent snowfall event. But anyways, the western U.S., it's a quiet day of weather. A nice day, nothing to speak on. We can already see the beginning stages of our little spin off the California coastline. This will be kind of storm one that gets a pretty active pattern ongoing. And then the temperatures today, good warm day across the southeast ahead of a cold front. The cold front will make its way through these other areas, but still, it's kind of a weak cold front. It doesn't really cool you down much across the Mississippi Valley, but southeast, nice 60s, 70s, and look out west, certainly warm air all the way up into Montana. Look at this. Some areas are going to try to hit 70 degrees in Montana today, so definitely warm out west. So, all right, so for our Bible devotion this morning, and I appreciate anybody who is tuning in for this portion of the video. We're in Proverbs, so this is Proverbs chapter 25, verse 21 through 22. And there's a good chance you've probably heard this one before. If your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat, and if he is thirsty, give him water to drink. For you will heap burning coals on his head, and the Lord will reward you. And I wrote a couple things down with this, and I said, show love and kindness to your enemy. In doing this, they may feel guilty, ashamed about the way they treat you and others, and pray for them. So I think, this scripture is pretty straightforward, and we're called to love, show kindness, be there for our enemies. Now, in every situation, in most situations, I would say that it's not a situation where maybe your enemy is hungry or thirsty, but I think that, we can understand what it's saying here. We're called to help them. We're called to be understanding, understanding as in, hey, and a lot of times, because we live in a social media driven world, an online world, a lot of times it's what we call cyber bullying, and people are being rude to you online, leaving nasty comments or dissing on you, or it could be a physical thing. They're right there in front of you, saying it to your face or saying it behind your back. One thing that I try to remember, and listen, I am certainly growing with this, is that hurt people. I know y'all have heard that before. Somebody's always going through something, and you don't know what they're going through. And it's took a lot of maturing and understanding, and loving, and just growing up in my spiritual growth to really understand that. You never know if that person's having a bad day. Is going through something. It stems from something that they've been through, maybe at a younger age. Maybe they just have a grounded personality and it's negative, and they're just a very not a cheerful person, right? And you don't really know why, but what you can do is, for me, for example, I'll give you one example. I run a YouTube channel. This is my YouTube channel I'm talking on right now, right? And a big thing that I have to deal with, especially when the video pops off, not so much these videos where they're not getting a lot of views, but when a video is popping off, my stuff's getting out there, hitting the algorithm, have a lot of growth, but I also have a lot of people in the comments that just say, just very, very rude things. And a lot of times you guys don't see it because sometimes it's so rude that I just delete it and block them off the channel because I don't want to go back and read it. I want to read it once, and then I want to comment once, or either just not comment at all. And a lot of times the best thing to do is just not comment at all. But sometimes, I'll read them, and my first initial thought is, man, this person's got me irritated. This is the way I really want to respond, but the way I'm going to respond is in a loving and caring way. And, it could be a diss on the way that I'm talking or what I'm saying they don't like to hear. And, I just hit them with hey, thanks for watching. Appreciate your feedback. And, is part of that driven off a little sarcasm? I'm not going to sit here and say no. But if I can see that the person is just putting a lot of emotion into what they're writing, I will genuinely stop and say, I'll stop and comment and say, hey, man, it's pretty obvious that, you're not, you're obviously probably not in a positive mindset. Hey, man, I'll pray for you. And that's a lot of things people say. They'll shoot off their hip all the time. They'll say it's not a situation where the person is bashing you. It might be a situation where a person is sick and you genuinely say, a lot of people will say, I'll pray for you. And I'm talking about in a situation where they're technically your enemy. Don't just say it just to say it because it's sarcasm, just to kind of say, ha ha ha, when you should definitely actually stop and pray for your enemy. I do it. I'll stop right there. I'll say a genuine prayer for them and say, hey, hey, God, whatever they're going through, please help them through it. And I go about my business. And I know God's going to handle it and take care of the rest. His will be done. So, if you're in a situation where you can help them, say, hey, you need somebody to talk to, whatever you might be going through, reach out, say, hey, man, I don't appreciate you saying all that, but it's obvious you might be going through something or maybe not. If you need somebody to talk to, I'm here. And you'll be surprised what they say back to you. I've had a couple comments where the person was incredibly rude, and then I've responded and kind of offset their negativity, and they came back and actually apologized. But like, Mitch, you're right. Shouldn't have acted like that. My bad. And hey, I can respect the heck out of that. But you remember what the scripture says, though. At the end of the day, it does make them have conflicted feelings, and I think that in a way it challenges them to not, I guess, be your enemy. It challenges them to act different than others, and it really kind of plants a seed in a way. You know what I'm saying? So just remember that, and I'm learning that too as I go. And just people are struggling out there, and they don't necessarily know how to deal with that struggle except by hurting others. So just but there was one more thing I want to say, but I can't think of it. But that last part says the Lord will reward you. And I think sometimes that reward is just you growing and becoming a better person. And the more you grow and the more you do things like that, the more the enemy won't bother you. I mean, I'm a living testament of that. Like when I get dissed on social media, and it happens because of what I do, I'm just like, all right, man, that's cool. I mean, and now sometimes it's personal. You take a shot at what I do and how hard I work my butt off. It can be personal, and I might have a little extra things to say. But then again, I don't fight it back with cursing, and I fight it back with reasoning. So, there's a time to defend yourself, and there's a time to just let stuff go. So I think that's the longest I've talked on Bible scripture ever. That's almost 10 minutes long. So anyways, God bless all y'all. Appreciate y'all. We'll do another video tomorrow morning. God bless.